got now the great pleasure to introduce Adam Curtis. It's our dream come true that Adam Curtis is here. Adam is a documentary filmmaker and a writer. He makes political and historical documentary films for the BBC, including the Mayfair set, 99, on the rise of business and the decline of political power, The Century of the Self, from 2002, on the Freud dynasty, and the management strategies of mass consumerism, The Power of Nightmares, 2004, on the politics of fear, The Trap, What Happened to Our Dream of Freedom, 2007, on the modern concept of freedom, and most recently, All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace, 2011, on how computers have led us into a simplified machine vision of the world. His films have won many BAFTA awards. In the conversation about the Garden Marathon, Adam said that he felt very strongly that it would be great to make a manifesto or a polemic, as he said. So we're incredibly grateful that not only he will present here the work, but he actually made specially a new film for tonight, which will have its world premiere here. The film is called I'm Not the Garden, I'm a Machine. A very, very warm welcome to Adam Curtis.
Thank you very much. Is this mic working? Yeah, it is. Thank you very much for coming from London. I think Hans Ulrich dignifies it by saying it's a manifesto. It's a rant. I'm sorry about that. It's what we call it in television. I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to it. I think all ages, as well as appreciating nature, also tend to project their own dreams onto nature. It's a thing that all historians will tell you. I mean, and many of those dreams that they project onto nature are dreams of how you should organize or could organize society. It's a great and wonderful thing to do. Like, from the Renaissance idea of the centrality of human beings and formal ordering to the romantic ideas of the early 19th century to the ideas of nature red in tooth and claw in the late 19th century, people like Herbert Spencer. And what all ages then tend to do is read back, having done that from nature, and say, oh, look, that means that what we believe in how society should be organized is right, because it's natural. It's not an ideology. It's more than that. But it's actually a projection onto nature. I'm sorry, I'm coming to this from a political point of view, but I do think that is a sort of, as well as appreciating nature in many other ways, that is a thing that ages tend to do. And gardens are often quite intense expressions of this. And they're just about organization, they're about power and control. And an expression of the idea of organization. So you have classical French gardens of the 17th and 18th centuries, which are, they are literally designed by the imposition of Descartes' mathematical laws onto nature. That was the idea behind many of them, which is a forgotten thing these days. Then you have the estates, the great estates of the industrialists in this country, 18th, 19th century, romantic ideas of a sort of a unified country, but they're also, again, about power. Now, what I think that one of the great dreams of our age, and when you're living through a dream, you don't quite see it, is science and technology. Not just that it can make things, but that it can actually help to organize society in different ways. From like in the early 20th century, people like the revolutionaries in Russia, Lenin, were obsessed by the idea that electrical energy and electrical networks could help rationally reorganize the whole of, well, not just the Soviet Union, but the whole of the world, to the sort of very romantic dream that I think we're living through at the moment, which is that computer networks can actually provide a new form of ordering of the world. What I think has been not recognized properly is the extent to which those sort of scientific rationality, romantic dreams have been projected by our age onto nature and read back again to say, oh, it means it's natural. So I just thought I would make a short film to try and correct that a bit. I'm only telling one short story, which I think is interesting and is germane to this point. It's 8 minutes, 47 seconds long. So I have ruthlessly simplified, because that's what journalists do. But I think it makes this point, and it's an interesting story that I didn't know about until I stumbled upon it. I hope you enjoy it. It's got some very nice animals in it as well, and thank you for coming.
Adam, thank you so very, very much for this film. Maybe a first question I wanted to ask you is that your most recent longer piece is actually All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace. And there seemed to be a connection, so I wanted to tell us maybe a little bit more about All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace and how it connects to what we just saw.
Well, I mean, I stole it out of it, basically. But I extended it because what I think, as I said at the beginning, what I think is that we haven't fully recognized the interpenetration between our scientific ideas and the way we think about a lot of, not just nature, but a lot of the rest of the world. And a lot of scientific ideas originally were dynamic, but they, in a lot of sciences, they turned into sort of managerial theories of how you manage the world. And what I was arguing overall, which I was also arguing there to an extent, is that when you apply those to nature, which you can also see as a very dynamic, chaotic, dark, mysterious force, you tend to managerialize nature. I mean, what I was tempted to do with that film, but I couldn't because it would get too long and also because I would probably cross copyright, was to put in that rant that Herzog made. There was a documentary made about Herzog making a film in the jungle, and he was caught on a bad day. He was always having a really bad day, and he's leaning against a log in the middle of the jungle, and he is, I mean, super ranting about how nature is dark, horrible, disgusting, it'll chew you up, it'll destroy you. What I'm saying is that there are many, I mean, nature is just stuff, we invent it all the time. But in our age, there are other versions of nature. I mean, there is nature red in tooth and claw, which supports the free market, some would argue. But there is also Herzog's rant, which is that it's a dark, frightening, chaotic, almost apocalyptic force that we manage to slip through at our peril. Then there is this other version of nature, which is what I was dealing with then, is what the series was all about, which I think is a very desiccated, neutral, managerialized version of nature, and just out of personal, I don't know, preference, I prefer a more complicated, chaotic, and mysterious view of nature. And I tend to think, partly because I just blame hippies for everything, is that that sort of we are all connected, we're one world, is an ideology. It's not a managerial truth. It's an ideology. You can love it, but you should recognize it for what it is. And that's what the series is trying to do.
And actually, when we met for the first time, obviously because your work has such an incredible impact on the art world, I was asking you if you see this as a practice of documentary filmmaking or if you're an artist. And she said, no, you see it as journalism. Can you tell us about this?
I don't believe this. I mean, I steal from the art world. I know that. But basically all I'm interested in is journalism. And I just know that you've got to entertain people. And a lot of journalists are very boring these days because it's sort of run out of ideas. And you just nick from wherever you see. And I nick from the art world. That does not turn you into an artist. And I am actually much prouder to be a journalist, to be honest. But I'm not really supposed to say that in this company. But it's true. I'm much prouder of trying to find out new facts about the world, present them as stories, and tell people about them, and try and get as close to the truth as possible. I think art is about something much more complicated, much deeper, more profound. I'm saying this, much better than I could ever do, and I don't want to do it.
Adam Curtis, thank you so very, very much.
Pleasure. Thanks for coming.